Alright, so today I watched, today's May 28th, about to be May 29th, 2023. May's coming to an end, and it's Happy Memorial Day weekend. I watched my Memorial Day weekend movie, which was Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'm pleasantly surprised I watched it. Last week, normally I watch a movie on Sunday, and last week I watched a movie. No, I didn't watch my movie last week, and I was actually gonna watch Fast X or whatever the latest Fast and the Furious movie is, but the seats were full. I get to the movie theater and the seats are full. I didn't think about buying the tickets online because usually, even on a Sunday, which is a relatively busy day, I get tickets to see a movie. And so, yeah, at the theater, I went in. I was like, all right, you know what? I'm here already. I don't want to go waste time. I don't want to spend time going back. And I really have wanted a Marvel detox for a while. So I was like, I'm not going to watch any Marvel movies. But I was like, the only movie that kind of fit in the time frame that I wanted to watch and that would get me home in a reasonable amount of time was the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. So I was like, you know what? I'm here already. I mean, I kind of like the other ones. They're funny, kind of cliche, but funny. So I was like, what the hell? I might as well watch it. So I bite the bullet, buy the ticket, and yeah, and it was actually a pretty damn good movie. I mean, and especially the villain. Wow. I have to say, I mean, there was a lot of cliche, tropey parts and very Marvel-esque parts, but they really ramped. I didn't realize how much they ramped up the acting, in this movie compared to I guess I haven't seen another Marvel movie for a while, but the acting is it was really good. I mean, again, it wasn't Shakespearean acting, but it was actually. The villain of the movie, the High Evolutionary, was actually quite a compelling villain. I'm not gonna lie. And he could have been played. The actor that played him, I think he's a Shakespearean actor. He's a British Shakespearean actor who, he played him amazingly. His lines are delivered with really intense, very believable megalomania behind them. Not only megalomania, but a mad evil scientist's level of megalomania. And he's definitely channeled the evil scientist vibe. Not only that, the creepy, a mix of creepy, he had a mix of creepy, how do you call that? A villain who's affable evil, but also insane evil. He definitely turned the Marvel character, which could have been a pretty lame Marvel character, honestly. I mean, I've seen other movies in the past where the character was cast in in a terribly unconvincing, very emotionless way. The same type of character with a very static expression of his motivations, very dry and drab, monotone line delivery. And I have to say, wow, someone has got to just. I mean, I was reading articles about the actor, and I don't want to mispronounce his name, but he was so good. The motivation for creating news. So his motivation, and there are spoilers in here, I forgot to mention yet again, but this is my kind of freeform rant on this movie. His motivation for doing his villainous work was he wanted the brain of a creature he created for the purpose, because the creature was brilliant, and more brilliant than he was, and he was able to discover a technical flaw that he couldn't figure out that allowed him to create his so-called perfect society of Animans or whatever, Animen. And he like he was taking like a turtle, he was taking unevolved species and putting them in some kind of hyper evolutionary chamber that increased their evolution to a species that was essentially humanoid. And so I guess that was one thing they were trying to aim towards, that all the species eventually become some form of humanoid. Now, this was a Marvel movie, so I wouldn't get too caught up in the evolutionary, evolutionary like philosophies and like the actual science behind it. But actually, honestly, they actually put a little bit of real science behind that. And I don't know if most of the audience caught it, but people who have a biology background would have caught it, that the protein, one of the proteins, so basically what happens is that the hyper-evolutionary chamber works. It essentially evolves a species to millions of years of its evolution into a humanoid species, pretty much any species, but that species is rageful. It's full of rage, essentially. And and his goal was to create a completely peaceful society. So there's some interesting, like, subtle social commentary here too. I'll get to that in a second. But his goal was to create. He needed peaceful creatures to populate his new counter-Earth. Peaceful animal creatures that weren't based on the human animal, so to speak. So the fox, the main character, I guess Rocket Raccoon, who his origin story is from this lab, where essentially he's a creature that was put together to help study and advance. As he was, his role was even explained by the High Evolutionary. His role was to advance society to the point of advance the science to the point where they could eventually get to the hyper-evolutionary chamber stage of creating this new super society. And again, his purpose was just to do that. But he turned out to be smarter than the High Evolutionary, because he figured out that the reason these Animen were enraged after they had been hyper-evolved was that there was a protein missing that allowed, and they even created, I'm pretty sure, a fictional protein name, but like it sounded, there was actual like acetylation of XYZ, something amine protein. Like they described that, and like I thought they actually described that in a super interesting way, because whenever I see a Hollywood movie, whenever they get into touching the science part, a lot of them don't even want to touch that science part at all. Like they want to talk a little bit about like the florid words and whatever, but this is deeper, much deeper than I expected for a Marvel movie, to be quite frank, honestly. And the thing is, I didn't watch Quantumania, Ant-Man and Quantumania and all that nonsense because I felt my intelligence would be insulted. And I felt that would have been a real bastardization of the science, and I'm sure it was. Quantumania, because harvesting quantum energy or whatever. I don't know. I mean, maybe I would have been, you know what, maybe I have to go back and actually watch that and be pleasantly surprised. But, yeah, so anyway, I mean, okay, they got something, they did some interesting there. Anyway. So the protein, they explained that to the audience, and so the raccoon was able to say the protein was being destroyed because there was a filtration issue, biofiltration issue with some of the actual technology that was supposed to cause this hyper-evolutionary, but the hyper-evolutionary chambers actual technology, I forgot exactly what it was, but this filter needed to be fixed, and then when they fixed it, they found out that the resultant Animen were actually peaceful. So these peaceful, so this is that point later on in the story when the peaceful Animen were discovered to be, the goal that the High Evolutionary was aiming for. The Rocket Raccoon and his friends, and this was actually quite a sad part. Like the story actually caught quite a sad. Honestly, like there's some real emotion tuggers in this movie. I know Marvel movies sometimes have that, but honestly, I've seen other emotional scenes in Marvel movies, and I didn't feel as compelled as in this movie. Like I actually felt bad for the main character, like legit. You know, the main character was like Rocket Raccoon. His friends, he and his friends thought that they were going to escape and essentially get off that planet and be allowed to fly in the new world and be happy. But they were actually scheduled to be terminated because they were just imperfect batches, and the only thing that the High Evolutionary wanted was the Rocket Raccoon's brain, because he wanted the brain of the animal, the brain of the species, or his brain, because his brain would, full his arrogance wanted it because he was smarter than he was apparently in certain things, and also he wanted his brain because his brain could have been used to give a trait to the other animals' species, and this was super interesting as well. Like, he also said the animal species were docile and perfect for a new race of humans, but they had lacked any kind of creativity trait, so they couldn't advance society really. They could just live in a very basic way, and so society was stagnant. And he wanted to eliminate that stagnancy. And his staff, who he was constantly berating, was saying that he should stop pursuing this insanity, because essentially, like, he's going to ruin. He's making really irrational moves, and he's ruining all of their hard work that they've done. But I guess eventually the staff mutinied, but he killed all the staff with his super gravity power or whatever. I didn't explain the origin of his power that well. It just said it was gravity based, and he could like slam things against the wall, and he could easily dispatch with a powerful race called the Sovereign, which he created, which I guess was a race in, as explained in the other of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, who are actually quite powerful in their own right. Or in the other Marvel movies. I don't know exactly where they appeared in the other Marvel movies because I haven't followed them precisely, but the characters probably made a return and then they were killed off. Anyway, so all I have to say about that, I'm just gonna, nip it here in the bud, but I will say, yes, that I would definitely recommend the movie. It's actually much more deeply layered than I anticipated for a Marvel movie, and I really, I'm pleasantly surprised. All right, so Guardians of the Galaxy 3, I don't know if I want to give it a full rating. I could give it a rating. I'd give it I would say a 4-star. Maybe 4.5. 4.5 is high, but I would give it like an honorary 4.5 because, but a 4, but maybe an honorary 4.5 because it was, again, it was very surprising in its depth. So, all right, thanks for listening. I'll see you around. Bye.